Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop what you're doing and take a deep breath, because what I'm about to say is not comfortable to hear. While China races ahead, the United States, the supposed beacon of freedom, innovation, and economic power, is shutting itself down from the inside. And it's not a foreign enemy doing it. It's us, it's our policies, our mindset, and our complete detachment from economic reality. The country that once built railroads, skyscrapers, and industries now builds debt, bureaucracy, and excuses. We've replaced productivity with printing presses, savings with spending, and leadership with politics. And yet, we're surprised that China, the nation once learning from us, is now surpassing us in discipline, production, and vision. Wake up before it's too late. That's not a warning, it's a lifeline. America's problem isn't that it can't compete, it's that it's forgotten how to. We've been lulled into a dangerous dream, one where debt feels like wealth, printing money feels like progress, and consumption feels like creation. But the alarm is ringing. Every time we raise the debt ceiling, every time we delay the truth, every time we trade productivity for politics, we hit the snooze button on our own future. The longer we sleep, the harder the awakening will be. The question isn't whether the reckoning is coming. It's whether we'll have the courage to open our eyes before it hits. Look around. While China is investing in infrastructure, production, and education, we're investing in distractions. We celebrate convenience over competence, stimulus over savings, and entitlement over effort. Our leaders tell us everything is fine, that deficits don't matter, that the dollar is strong, that growth is steady. But deep down, we all feel the cracks beneath our feet. Inflation isn't an accident, it's a symptom of denial. The more we ignore fundamentals, the more reality builds pressure until it bursts. The first step to saving this nation is to stop pretending it's not in trouble, because no problem gets solved by denial. Denial delays the cure until it's too late. We used to be a nation that thrived on challenge. We built industries from nothing, turned crisis into innovation, and taught our children that success came from work, not welfare. Now, we've confused comfort with stability. We've traded the pursuit of excellence for the illusion of safety. But comfort is the enemy of progress. The nations that stay comfortable stop growing, and the nations that face discomfort grow stronger. China understands that. They're pushing forward through sacrifice while we're pulling back through excuses. They're saving, producing, exporting, and we're borrowing, importing, and inflating. The contrast isn't just economic, it's cultural. It's a story of hunger versus habit, discipline versus denial. Every great civilization that fell did so not because it was conquered, but because it became complacent. Rome didn't collapse in a single day. It decayed from within. The same signs are flashing here. We are drowning in entitlement politics and short-term gratification, forgetting that prosperity comes from discipline, not debt. If you want to see the future of America, look at its values, not its numbers. We are teaching generations to expect without effort, to spend without saving, to believe in bailouts instead of balance. That mindset is the real shutdown, not of government, but of the American spirit. But here's the truth no one wants to admit: it's not too late to wake up. The alarm is loud, but the patient is still breathing. The moment we recognize that our so-called safety nets are actually traps, that our comfort is costing us competitiveness, we can begin to turn this around. Wake up and remember what made America unstoppable. Not its money, but its mindset. The mindset of builders, savers, risk takers, And workers who understood that progress isn't printed, it's earned. The wake up call isn't just for politicians or Wall Street, it's for every American who's fallen asleep to reality. Because the economy doesn't collapse when the markets crash, it collapses when the people stop caring. Don't wait for the headlines to tell you what's already visible. Inflation is stealing your savings. Debt is stealing your children's future, and comfort is stealing your courage. The world isn't waiting for America to get back up. It's already moving forward. So wake up. Look at the numbers. Look at the streets. Look at your own finances. The truth is right there. The sooner we face it, the sooner we can fix it. Every generation before us fought for a stronger future. This one must fight to preserve it. The race isn't over, but the runners must wake up first. History doesn't wait for the sleeping. It rewards those who rise before dawn, those who refuse to dream while the world changes around them. The time to wake up is now, because once the world moves on, catching up becomes impossible. Replace entitlement with effort, because no nation, no person, no empire has ever grown strong by asking for more while giving less. America's decline didn't start with a financial crisis or a political failure. It began the moment we started believing we were owed success simply for existing. We replaced ambition with expectation, productivity with privilege, and responsibility with reward. We started to believe that the government could solve every problem, that printing money could replace earning it, and that prosperity could come without pain. But history has never worked that way. Wealth built without work collapses just as fast as it rises. And right now, that's exactly what's happening to us. We've built an economy that rewards dependency. Every time the market shakes, we look to the Federal Reserve for rescue. Every time jobs disappear, we look to Washington for checks. Every time reality hurts, we hide behind policy promises. But here's the truth. Dependency is not compassion. It's control. When people depend on the system, they stop controlling their destiny. When effort fades, innovation dies. And when a society believes it deserves prosperity without contribution, decline becomes inevitable. The stimulus checks felt like relief, but they were anesthesia, numbing us from the pain of our own economic decay. Contrast that with what built America in the first place: effort, sacrifice, and self-reliance. Our ancestors didn't wait for bailouts. They didn't expect safety nets. They built, they worked, they saved, and they created. They turned barren land into cities and ideas into industries. That spirit of self-reliance was our greatest currency, and it's the one we've been spending without replenishing. The more we trade that spirit for entitlement, the poorer we become, not just in wealth, but in willpower. Effort is the engine of greatness. Entitlement is the brake. While China trains its people to work harder, to innovate, and to think long term, we've trained ours to expect comfort. We measure progress by how much the government gives instead of how much the people achieve. That's not progress. That's regression disguised as compassion. Real progress doesn't come from redistribution. It comes from creation. Every job earned, every idea pursued, every dollar saved is a contribution to strength. But every handout accepted without purpose weakens that foundation. The great deception of our age is that comfort equals security. It doesn't. It breeds fragility, and fragility breaks under pressure. The entitlement mindset spreads like a virus. It weakens motivation, infects ambition, and kills the desire to compete. You can't build resilience when you're taught that struggle is unfair. You can't build independence when you believe you're always a victim. The hard truth is that the world doesn't owe you comfort. It owes you opportunity, and what you do with that defines your fate. The same applies to nations. America still has every opportunity to rebuild, but it will require effort, relentless, disciplined, uncomfortable effort. The kind of effort that built factories, invented industries, and made this nation the world's leader. If you truly want to feel secure, stop asking what you're owed and start focusing on what you can earn. Wealth isn't created by politicians. It's created by individuals who take risks, work hard, and refuse to settle for mediocrity. The moment you trade that for the illusion of guaranteed comfort, you've already lost the battle. And make no mistake, the rest of the world isn't waiting. China, India, and countless emerging economies are filled with people who know the value of effort because they've never been handed anything. They are hungry, and hunger always beats comfort. Replace entitlement with effort because effort builds resilience, and resilience builds nations. The people who fight for what they want will always outpace those who expect it. This isn't just economics, it's human nature. The stronger the effort, the brighter the future. We cannot print our way to prosperity, but we can work our way there. Every action you take, every hour you dedicate, every dollar you save is a quiet rebellion against the culture of entitlement. And that rebellion is exactly what America needs right now. Not more promises, not more bailouts, but more people willing to earn what they desire. Because once effort returns to the center of our values, greatness follows naturally. It always has, and it always will. Courage is the new currency, because in a world drowning in fear, only the brave can afford to speak the truth. Look around and you'll see that fear has replaced reason in every corner of our economy and society. We fear market corrections. We fear short-term pain. We fear telling people what they don't want to hear. So instead, we print money, we delay responsibility, we lie to ourselves, and we call it stability. But stability built on fear is an illusion, and illusions always collapse. Courage, on the other hand, is the only thing that can rebuild what fear destroys. It takes courage to face the numbers, to admit that the system is broken, and to endure the pain of fixing it. Yet that's the courage America has lost, the courage to take the medicine before the disease becomes terminal. It's easy to talk about courage in battle or politics, but economic courage is rarer and more essential. It's the courage to say no when everyone wants yes, the courage to stop spending what we don't have, to stop borrowing from the future, to stop pretending that endless debt is growth. It's the courage to endure short-term discomfort for long-term stability. But we've built an economy of cowards where every crisis is met with printing presses instead of policy, with stimulus instead of sacrifice. Our leaders fear the voters, the markets fear reality, and the people fear change. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to face it head on, to confront the uncomfortable truth that you can't solve a debt problem by creating more debt. The real heroes of tomorrow won't be the ones who promise comfort. They'll be the ones who choose truth over popularity. We need leaders who can stand before a nation addicted to easy money and say, no more. We need investors who have the courage to step out of bubbles and into real value. We need individuals willing to face short-term pain in exchange for long prosperity. That's not just policy. That's principle. And principle, once lost, takes generations to recover. Every great recovery in history was born not from denial, but from courage. The courage to rebuild, to reform, to rise again from the ashes of excess. You can feel it, the system trembling under the weight of its own cowardice. Every time we avoid a correction, we make the next one worse. Every time we choose political safety over fiscal responsibility, we dig the hole deeper. And yet, buried beneath all the fear, there's still a spark, the spark of courage that built America in the first place. The same courage that crossed oceans, built industries, and fought wars for freedom. That courage didn't vanish. It just fell asleep under the illusion of comfort. It's time to wake it up, to remind ourselves that growth requires risk and freedom requires responsibility. Courage is contagious. When one person dares to stand up and speak truth, others follow. When one generation decides that reality matters more than rhetoric, progress begins. It doesn't take millions. It takes momentum, the courage to change one habit, to save instead of spend, to invest instead of consume, to tell the truth, even when it's unpopular. Imagine what would happen if an entire nation rediscovered that spirit. Inflation would no longer terrify us because we'd understand discipline. Debt would no longer control us because we'd value savings. And fear would no longer silence us because we'd remember who we are, a people built on resilience, not reliance. Every crisis in history has tested humanity's courage, and every time the brave few have carried the rest forward. The coming years will test ours again. Will we choose to face the consequences of our reckless years and rebuild with honesty, or will we keep hiding behind excuses until the system collapses on its own? That answer depends not on government, not on Wall Street, but on us, on whether we value courage more than comfort. Because in the economy of the future, courage will be the only real currency left. Money can lose its value. Markets can lose their balance. But courage, that rarest of human assets, will always appreciate. And the moment we rediscover it, that's the moment America starts rising again. Rebuild the spirit of production. Because without it, a nation becomes nothing more than a marketplace for other people's achievements. America once built the world's greatest industries, powered by hands that knew the value of work and minds that understood the meaning of innovation. We forged steel, built ships, and reached for the stars. But today, the hum of our factories has faded into silence, replaced by the sound of imports arriving from countries that still believe in producing real value. We have become a society obsessed with consumption, chasing comfort instead of creation, borrowing instead of building. The tragedy isn't that others are surpassing us. It's that we've stopped trying to compete. The spirit that built America wasn't about buying more. It was about becoming more. Production is the foundation of prosperity. You can't consume what hasn't been created. Yet we've built an economy that rewards spending over saving and speculation over skill. We've taught generations to believe that wealth appears with a swipe of a card or the click of a mouse. But real wealth, the kind that lasts, comes from producing something of value. It comes from work, craftsmanship, and creativity. It's what turns an idea into income and effort into enterprise. Every product, every innovation, every business that once defined American greatness came from the spirit of production, a mindset that said, let's build it here. But today we say, let's buy it cheaper there. And every time we do, we sell off another piece of our independence. China understands this better than we do now. They produce while we consume. They manufacture while we speculate. They build infrastructure while we debate politics. They're teaching their people to master technology, engineering, and design while we're teaching ours to manage debt and chase digital distractions. The result is inevitable. The producer becomes powerful and the consumer becomes dependent. This isn't just about economics, it's about sovereignty. When a nation stops producing, it stops leading. When it relies on others to create what it consumes, it hands over its future piece by piece. The balance of power shifts not through war, but through production. It takes courage to rebuild what's been lost, but it takes pride to believe it's worth rebuilding. America once had both. We believed that a good day's work was a victory, that creating something tangible was a contribution to the future. But the modern economy has replaced builders with borrowers and effort with entitlement. We celebrate consumption as if it's achievement. We've created a culture that measures success by how much we own rather than how much we produce. But that mindset is unsustainable, because when the world stops buying our debt, we'll have nothing left to sell. The spirit of production isn't just about making goods. It's about creating value at every level of society. It's about craftsmanship, innovation, and pride in contribution. It's the factory worker who builds with precision, the engineer who designs with purpose, the entrepreneur who dares to create when others doubt. That's the heartbeat of a real economy. You can't print that, and you can't fake it. It's earned through effort, skill, and persistence. When a nation honors its producers more than its speculators, prosperity follows naturally. To rebuild this spirit, we must first change our mindset. We must stop glorifying easy money and start celebrating hard work again. We must teach our children that creating value is more powerful than consuming it. The next generation doesn't need more influencers. It needs more inventors. It doesn't need more hype. It needs more hands that build, minds that innovate, and hearts that take pride in production. That's how you restore national strength, not through bailouts or policies, but through a renewed respect for work itself. When America starts producing again, everything changes. Confidence returns. Independence returns. The dignity of self-reliance returns. A nation that builds becomes a nation that leads. The rest of the world may be racing ahead, but the road back to greatness begins in our own factories, our own workshops, our own determination to make, not just take. The spirit of production is not lost. It's waiting to be reignited. And once it burns again, no global power, no market trend, no policy failure will be able to stop America from rising once more. Turn discipline into power, because without discipline, even the strongest economy collapses under the weight of its own indulgence. Discipline is not a limitation. It's the force that transforms potential into performance. It's what separates nations that rise from those that rot in comfort. The uncomfortable truth is that America's greatest threat isn't from outside, it's from within. We've abandoned the very discipline that made us powerful. We used to work, save, build, and plan for the future. Now, we borrow, spend, consume, and hope that someone else will fix the mess later. But hope is not a strategy, and debt is not wealth. Discipline is the ability to say no when the world demands yes. It's the restraint to live within your means, the courage to take short-term pain for long-term gain, and the wisdom to value reality over illusion. America once mastered that. The generations that survived depressions, wars, and recessions did it not with handouts, but with grit. They understood that real strength comes from sacrifice. Every empire that lasted understood this same principle. Prosperity demands restraint. But today, our culture preaches indulgence as freedom and spending as success. We measure wealth by what we consume, not what we create, and that illusion is destroying the very foundation of our strength. Look at the nations rising today. They're not growing because they have more resources They're growing because they have more discipline. China saves when we spend. They invest in infrastructure while we invest in distractions. They think in decades while we think in election cycles. Discipline gives them power while our obsession with instant gratification weakens us. The irony is painful. The very freedom that discipline once secured for us is now being eroded by the lack of it. We've turned liberty into license, and the cost is mounting with every dollar of debt we print. The markets, the government, and the people all share this addiction to comfort. Every time there's a crisis, instead of confronting it with discipline, we rush to cushion the blow with borrowed money. We stimulate, subsidize, and bail out, all to avoid the temporary discomfort that discipline demands. But avoidance doesn't eliminate consequences. It multiplies them. The longer you delay pain, the deeper it cuts when it finally arrives. True strength is not avoiding hardship. It's facing it early enough to grow from it. That's what discipline teaches. The power to endure today so tomorrow can be better. The beauty of discipline is that it compounds. Just like interest on savings, the rewards of consistent restraint multiply over time. One disciplined decision today leads to stability tomorrow. One moment of sacrifice now creates years of freedom later. The same applies to nations. A country that saves and invests becomes self-reliant. A country that spends and borrows becomes a servant to its creditors. Discipline is not just a personal virtue, it's an economic weapon. And right now, America has laid that weapon down. We've become slaves to convenience, chasing short-term comfort at the cost of long-term control. We fear austerity more than collapse. But discipline isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the sharpening of a blade before the battle. Without it, we're defenseless against the storms of economic reality. The nations that master discipline rule not through luck, but through strategy. They can endure downturns, adapt to change, and rise stronger because they built their foundation on prudence, not pride. If we want to regain our power, we must restore discipline in our policies, our markets, and our personal lives. Save more than you spend. Produce more than you consume. Think further than the next election or paycheck, because discipline doesn't limit your freedom, it protects it. The freedom to live without debt. The freedom to invest without fear. The freedom to stand tall because you've earned what you own. Discipline is the quiet strength behind every lasting success story. Whether it's a family, a company, or a nation, the undisciplined may rise faster, but they fall harder. The disciplined may rise slower, but they never fall for long. And that's the kind of power America needs to rediscover: steady, principled, unstoppable power born from discipline. The race isn't over. It's ours to win. That truth should ignite every American heart, because history has never been kind to those who surrender halfway. Yes, China is racing ahead, but this is not the finish line. The story of nations isn't written in decades. It's written in determination. The same country that once built the world's greatest economy from scratch still has the tools, the talent, and the tenacity to reclaim its lead. What we've lost isn't capability. It's conviction. We've forgotten how to compete, how to endure, and how to believe that the struggle itself is what forges greatness. The race is not lost because others are faster. It's endangered because we've stopped running. Competition is the lifeblood of progress. It's what drove humanity out of caves and into skyscrapers. It's what turned America from a collection of colonies into an industrial powerhouse. The willingness to compete, to fail, adapt, and try again is the secret behind every success story. But in recent decades, We've replaced competition with complacency. We want the rewards of victory without the pain of the race. We expect innovation without risk, wealth without work, and progress without patience. That's not how the world works, and it never has. Every nation that stands tall today does so because it ran when others rested, it built when others borrowed, and it sacrificed when others spent. The United States used to be that nation. It can be again, but only if we start moving. The global race has changed, but the principles remain the same. The nations that win are those that produce more than they consume, save more than they spend, and think further than they fear. China isn't succeeding by magic. It's succeeding through method. It's producing, investing, and planning decades ahead. Meanwhile, we're trapped in a cycle of short-term thinking, chasing quarterly profits while losing generational wealth. Our leaders focus on polls instead of policy, and our people measure progress in instant gratification instead of enduring growth. But if we remember what true competition demands, effort, patience, and discipline, we can not only re-enter the race, we can lead it again. The finish line is not measured in GDP or stock market numbers. It's measured in resilience, the ability to survive setbacks and rise stronger. America has faced greater challenges than this. We've survived wars, depressions, inflation, and recessions, and each time we came back stronger because we refused to quit. That same fire still burns beneath the surface, waiting for leadership that reminds us of who we are. The race is not about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about being the most determined. The nations that endure are the ones that refuse to stop running, no matter how far behind they fall. You see, the real race isn't against China or any other country. It's against our own decline. It's a race between courage and comfort, between discipline and denial, between the easy path and the right one. Every policy we make, every dollar we spend, every generation we raise either pushes us forward or holds us back. The world is watching to see whether America can rediscover its hunger. Not the hunger for consumption, but the hunger for creation. That hunger built our industries, our inventions, and our independence. And it can build them again. Winning this race will require something rare, a collective awakening, a shift from entitlement to effort, from fear to faith, from waiting for change to becoming it. We must once again believe that our destiny is not dictated by markets or politics, but by mindset. Because once a nation believes again in its own power to create, no competitor can stop it. The race is not over because time hasn't beaten us. We've only paused to catch our breath. But now the world is accelerating, and hesitation is defeat. The moment we decide to move with purpose again, to work harder, save smarter, and think longer, the finish line begins to move back in our favor. The race belongs to those who never stop running. And America, for all its struggles, was built to run. The only question left is whether we still have the courage to start sprinting again.